So welcome back to another episode of Tasteful Noodles. So if you've lived in the UK, particularly if you were a student, you're probably familiar with the pot noodle. Pot noodle was launched in 1977 by Golden Wonder, following in the footsteps of Nissin from Japan with their cup noodles a few years earlier. So since then the brand has changed hands a few times and is currently owned by Unilever. Interestingly, about 10 years ago, Golden Wonder actually released a competitor noodle called the Nation Noodle. Then they renamed it to Noodle Pot. I couldn't actually find any of these in the shop, so I can only assume that the brand isn't doing particularly well. So something that caught my eye last time I was in Tesco's was the Lost the Pot noodle. So clearly manufactured by Pot Noodle, but there's no pot. Interested to try this. I was quite intrigued by it. Obviously I've tried most of the types of pot noodle before, and we'll be looking at the potted and cupped noodles in another season of Tasteful Noodles. So we have the Lost the Pot roast chicken flavoured noodles. So first of all, let's take a bit of a closer look at the packaging. So in terms of the packaging, we've got new on the top left there, which is fine. It says Lost the Pot noodle roast chicken, so we've got a bit of a play on words there. Does it stand out on the shelf? For chicken noodle, yes, it's clearly bright orange. You can probably tell it's a packet of noodles. Whether it's related to a pot noodle or not, it's probably about as good as it's going to get. Maybe the pot could be slightly larger. We've got the serving suggestion at the top there, coming spinning out of the bowl. And it says just wing it in 5 minutes down the bottom. So quite a departure from the Asian style that we've reviewed so far. Fairly modern look, a little bit uninspiring. Give this a 1 out of 2 for packaging. There's some room for improvement, but it's not the worst packet I've ever seen. So let's now take a quick look at the nutritional value. Okay, the information on this is actually a little bit misleading. So they've got typical values as prepared per 100 grams. So this is a 92 gram packet, but they're saying that this has got 2 portions, so serves 2 as part of a tasty main meal, which is clearly preposterous, like you'd eat the whole thing. And they've also got the nutrition per portion. I'm going to have to do some sums, so just 2 seconds. I think I've got it. I think I understand it now. So if my calculations are correct, this packet has 416 calories, 17 grams of fat, saturating 1.4 grams, 6.2 grams of protein, 1.66 grams of salt. This packet cost me 65 pence, giving a cost per 100 calories of 16p. So let's move on to the preparation of the noodles. Add noodles to a pan of 250 ml of boiling water, stir in sachet contents, reduce heat slightly, simmer for 3 minutes, dish up and enjoy. So there's no draining needed, you don't need a sieve. They also give the option of a microwave, so good, that's really good. Something that we haven't seen on the Asian noodles so far. So 1 block of dry noodles, 1 sachet of roast chicken flavour with some running chickens on the detailing there. Okay, so no draining needed. Pour these straight into the bowl. There's the nice steaming bowl of noodles. You can see a few little bits of carrot and some spices there, but they do have that same flat tape shape that the pot noodle has as well. In terms of ease of preparation, it's not quite a 3, mainly for the reason that it doesn't have its own pot. If it had its own pot or its own receptacle, we poured the water straight in, that would be a 3. So it's not fair to give it a 3. I also don't think it's fair to give it a 2. You can put them into the microwave, which makes it that little bit easier. And if you're going camping and things like that, to take an extra sieve, to mix up the extra sachets and things like that, to drain it all down, is a little bit more work. So I'm going to give this a 2.5, because it is literally just water in, boil it, sachets and dry noodles, boil it for 3 minutes, so pretty quick as well, and pour it straight into the bowl. So 2.5 out of 3 for preparation. So let's dive in and see how they taste. So I do like what they've done here. This is quite different from any other packet of instant noodles I've tried, and they have retained that sort of signature pot noodle texture signature pot noodle shape, and there's a slight sort of pot noodle aftertaste to it as well. Signature characteristics are there. Are these characteristics as nice as the Asian noodles that we've been trying? I would say no. Having said that, the brand's been selling for over 40 years and it's been selling quite well. So clearly there's a market for this type of noodle in the UK. So it makes sense that eventually pot noodle would go to the packet form to take on the likes of super noodles and things like that. So here in the UK, the supermarkets are generally stocked with things like pot noodles, super noodles. The Nissins are sometimes making their way onto the shelves, but generally speaking, these ones are a lot more easily accessible than the Japanese and the Korean noodles, which you normally have to go to a specialist Asian supermarket for. So there we have it. In terms of taste, compared to the original pot noodles, personally I thought it was a little bit more bland. Usually with the pot noodle, they've got the seasoning already applied to the noodles rather than a separate sachet. Then you've got another sachet of either soy sauce or chili sauce or tomato ketchup, which you add a little bit more to. Whereas these ones are a little bit bland. They're okay, and like I said, it has got that pot noodle flavour behind it. So in terms of what they're trying to do, can't blame them. And I'd be disappointed if they did anything else to move away from their signature flavours and textures. But I think it could use a little bit more flavour. So there are, at the moment, 3 flavours of these lost the pot noodles, so I would like to try the other ones. So for flavour, I'd give this a 4 out of 10. I've tasted a lot of much nicer noodles than this. In terms of value for money, I would actually give this a 4 out of 5. And the reason I'm going to give that is it's got a reasonable sort of calorie count inside of here, around 400 calories. The price per calorie is roughly equivalent to the other standard noodles, but it is also quite a lot more healthy. There's not a lot of saturated fat in here, and there's not a lot of salt. So for someone like a student that wants a quick snack that isn't as unhealthy as some of the noodles, I think this is a pretty viable option. So yeah, 4 out of 5 for value. In terms of the heat, it's a 0 out of 10. There's no heat to this noodle whatsoever. So that gives the total score for the roast chicken lost the pot noodle 11.5 out of 20.